Hi, and welcome to another Tea Time Show, the show where we share tips and strategies to help grow your business online. So today, my cup of tea is sponsored by Mr. Burns. Awesome. And we're talking about Google AdWords. So our question today comes from Steve. Steve asks, what is a good AdWords click-through rate? So there's a few things that you need to understand really about the data you're seeing in your Google AdWords account. Click-through rate, first and foremost, is the number of impressions calculated as against the number of clicks to give you a percentage. And the higher that is, arguably, the better. So what is a good click-through rate? So first, we need to really understand how Google's presenting this data to you in your AdWords account. And there's a lot of different sort of networks potentially that are pulled together to give you a click-through rate for your campaign, depending on how you've got that configured. So first and foremost, we need to segment that data to really understand what the AdWords click-through rate is. So segmenting the data, first of all, we've got Google search. We all know what Google search is. You go to Google, you type something in, and some search results come up. Nice and easy. The second is Google Search Partners. Now, these are third-party sites which have a search box that a user can type a query into, but the results, the ad results, are served by Google. So those might be Amazon, for example. But with Amazon, the ads are displayed, the Google ads are displayed right at the bottom of the page, the set of results. So Amazon's results come first, Google's results come right at the bottom to earn them a few extra pence for some clicks. Consequently, the click-through rate on Google ads when they're served on Amazon search results is much lower than it is on Google's results. So we don't want to mix those two together. By the way, you can opt out of Google Search Partners. By default, you're opted in. So that's in the settings in your AdWords campaign, and you can go and see whether that's turned on or off. The next one, of course, is Google Shopping. So if you're an e-commerce store, there's a separate campaign type called Google Shopping, and that serves some very different product ads results. And again, the click-through rate might be different there than it is for your standard Google search campaign. So again, we need to maybe have a look at those as a separate entity rather than mixing them all together. Next is Google Display, and the click-through rate here is much, 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 much lower than you would expect on any of those other three networks. These are banner ads or text ads shown alongside content or targeting users. We've done blog posts and shows about this before, so we'll signpost those after this is produced. But click-through rate there is going to be much lower. Now, one of the things you need to bear in mind is if you have a Google AdWords campaign which is targeting search, search partners, and display all mixed into one, the headline click-through rate there isn't really a fair reflection of the real click-through rate. So what you might have is you might have 100 impressions from search, and you might have 10 clicks, a 10% click-through rate, which is great, but you might have 10,000 impressions on the display network, but only have 10 clicks there, which gives you a much, much lower percentage. If you add the total number of impressions and the total number of clicks, your click-through rate overall looks pretty terrible. It actually isn't in reality. That's probably very good on Google search. So we need to make sure we segment those. The next thing we need to think about when we're segmenting the data is, in this day and age, different devices. So the desktop click-through rate will differ quite significantly from the mobile click-through rate, for example. So again, you'll be wanting to segment your data to see what your desktop click-through rate is, your mobile click-through rate is, and also your tablet click-through rate to see what it is relatively on each of those devices. Now, significantly, we'll come on to ad positions, which are a significant factor in deciding the click-through rate. With mobile devices and mobile search, there are only a very small number of search results, one or two, sometimes three at the top of mobile results. So if you're in position 4 on mobile, your click-through rate is going to be much, much lower than in position 3 because you're at the bottom of the page or even on the second page. So not many people are going to see your ad. So what is a good AdWords click-through rate? So Google, for many years, has kind of said 0.5% is the minimum, or 1% is the minimum. I would challenge that. I would say this is very competitive in almost all industries these days, and all keyword markets. There are very few that aren't competitive. So search, I would say you certainly want to be looking at upwards of 3% on Google search. So if you're getting search partners on those other networks, I would have said upwards of 3%. A good, strong campaign across that whole search campaign, across all your keywords, a good, strong click-through rate is between 5 and 10%. There are some keywords that will massively outperform that. I've seen consistent click-through rates of 20% upwards on certain keywords, but that doesn't really happen across the board on many campaigns. But certainly, I would say aim for 5 to 10% over a period of time. The click-through rate you're achieving on search partners is less important. Google doesn't really consider this part of the quality score algorithm. More on that in a moment. Because, as I said before, the ads aren't shown right at the top of the search results necessarily on search partners, so we don't really expect a high click-through rate there. So worry about your Google search click-through rate. Don't do so much on search partners. You can't really optimize specifically for it anyway. On Google Shopping, we see click-through rates on kind of strong campaigns of between 2 and 5%. Again, it does vary according to ad position, and some keywords or some search queries will generate a higher click-through rate than others. Display ads, typically anything upwards of 0.5%, you're doing pretty well. The thing you should understand about display ads, though, of course, is that a lot of that it's top of funnel activity. It's much more about brand. It's more about brand frequency, reminding people of your brand, maybe your remarketing ads, reminding people to come back to your website. But it's visibility, visibility, visibility. Although, yes, you do want clicks and you do want people coming back to your website from remarketing, or you do want people to click and take a look at your offer, that display strategy is very early in the funnel. You are interrupting people with that message, which they may not be in the right place at the right time to actually click on that and click through. So it is typically much, much lower, but again, you probably want to be aiming for 0.5% or higher. If there are specific domains or specific pages which are generating a much higher click-through rate than that, upwards of 5 or 6 or 10%, I would go and look at those pages and just check what the quality of that site is like and decide whether you want to keep paying for those clicks. So just a little tip there. So what are the main factors for an AdWords click-through rate? Okay, so this is primarily looking at Google search. So the first one is keyword relevance. Okay, so this is making sure that the keywords that you are bidding on are high intent and match exactly what you do. So if you are an accountant, bidding on VAT is something you do, it's relevant, but it doesn't indicate that someone is actually looking for you for what you do. You will get a much stronger click-through rate on accountant location, or something of VAT specialist location, or something like that will generate a much stronger click-through rate. So making sure that the things that are typing in search queries are relevant to your business or your product or your service or even your brand, those will get a much higher click-through rate. Among the highest are your brand terms. So if someone is searching for your business and it's a unique business name, typically you're going to be achieving 20% upwards in terms of click-through rate there. Keyword intent I mentioned, so someone, a user typing in, I don't know, pink dress, that's not quite as strong an intent as pink prom dress, or size 10 pink dress, or long pink dress, or short pink dress, whatever that might be. So that's somebody who knows much more about what they're looking for. They're much closer to a buying decision. Those tend to have much higher click-through rates than the broader, more generic terms. Keyword match types is another one, and this is sort of related to keyword relevance. There's a whole other show on broad phrase and exact matching that we'll connect to, so you can watch that show as well. But very simply, if you were to bid on a broad keyword, that tends to match a lot of other search queries that may or may not be relevant. So again, the keyword itself, there may be certain queries where you're getting a high click-through rate, but matching some other stuff, some other queries where it just isn't relevant, and therefore you don't get the response from the ads, and the click-through rate becomes very low. So just be careful on keyword match types and use those accordingly. Ad position will have a very strong bearing on click-through rate. The first 1 or 2 positions are generally fairly similar. Position 3 and 4 would be a bit lower. 5 and 6, obviously, the further you go down the page, the less likely it is that someone will actually see your ad. So even though it's been rendered, it's been, the server has served it up on the page, the user hasn't scrolled down to the bottom or along the side or onto the second page or wherever it is, and seen your ad to be able to click it. Okay, so position 5 versus position 1, if the ad text and the keyword were identical, you would see a lower click-through rate in position 5 than you will in position 1. That goes without saying, that's common sense. But ad position will have an impact on click-through rate. And then your ad copy itself. Now, it's good practice to make sure that the keyword you're bidding on is included in the ad copy to demonstrate some relevance. But you've got some creative license in here. Whether you say that it's free next day delivery from your e-commerce store, that might get a better click-through rate than 1,000 items in stock. So those would impact on the click-through rate to a lesser degree, but they do still have a significant enough impact to make it worthwhile to engage in ad split testing, to continue to rotate ads and test different messages, different benefit statements, those sorts of things. A standard practice when you're managing an AdWords campaign, but testing that ad copy to get that click-through rate higher and higher. So those are the factors, basic ones. Ad extensions, so there are a whole heap of these with your Google AdWords account. So these could be location extensions, so that would improve your click-through rate for local searches. If I'm searching for an accountant in a location, and then your ad says you're an accountant in that location, and then underneath that it's got the map result as well, and says where you are. Call extensions, things like call out extensions, site links, those sorts of things make your ad a little bit bigger, and give the user more information, and will again influence your click-through rate, and that could certainly improve that as well. And then the last one is brand equity. So this is a bit more difficult to control and a bit more difficult to measure, but this is more about the searcher searching for Google using a query, and the result coming up with a brand that they already know, and the click-through rate there could be higher. So if you're in position 3 and I already know your brand, and I go to Google and I type something in, there's your ad in position 3, and I see your brand. Oh, I recognize that brand. I bought from that store before. The click-through rate in position 3 is elevated because I know you. I already trust you. So if you take a site like Amazon, for example, going back to my pink dress idea, if you are bidding on pink dress, if you're Amazon in position 3, I would suggest you might even get as good a click-through rate in position 3 if you're Amazon as you would in position 1, because your brand equity, that trust I have in your brand, is so strong. I've had a good shopping experience. I know your pricing is okay. I know you deliver stuff on time. I know it's secure. All of those things. There's a lot of brand equity in there. So that probably isn't going to work quite so well in kind of position 5, position 6. But brand equity, a brand that you know and you trust already, certainly is going to influence that Google AdWords click-through rate. So just to summarize this then, and don't forget, give us a like and subscribe for more tips on Google Ads and a whole bunch of other things to grow your business online. But a good click-through rate really is better than your competitors. It's one of the factors that decides your ad position, is the quality score, and a big part of that is click-through rate. Okay, so if you are achieving a better click-through rate than your competitors and you're bidding the same, your ad position will be stronger than theirs. It is also the case that if they are bidding more than you, but the click-through rate and the quality score is so much higher than yours that you could outrank them and pay less per click. And certainly that's one of the things that we're looking at when we're optimizing campaigns, is trying to get that click-through rate as high as possible, and continue to optimize and keep improving that click-through rate, first and foremost to improve the quality score, make sure that we're getting good quality traffic, and making sure we're showing relevant ads, taking traffic to relevant landing pages, which helps the conversion rate, of course. So that helps us increase relevant traffic, more good quality traffic. And the second is the quality score is much higher, which means ad positions will either stay at the same level and the cost per click will come down, or they'll increase in ad rank if we're not already in top positions anyway. So a good click-through rate is better than the competitors in that space, but I would always be competing with myself and trying to improve that week on week, on month. So a good click-through rate is whatever is better than competitors, but also whatever is better than it was last week or last month. Join us again for more tea time chats on Google AdWords and Twitter and marketing generally online. Until then, enjoy a cup of tea.